This episode offers psychosocial education designed to inspire and motivate our listeners. The information provided does not constitute a therapeutic relationship nor a substitute for professional mental health care. If you are experiencing a mental health crisis, call 911, go to your nearest emergency room, or for listeners in the United States, text 988 for the National Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. Warning, this episode contains brain food that will lead to improved emotional and social intelligence. Thanks for tuning in to Harvesting Happiness today for a healthy serving of consciously prepared brain food. This is Lisa Cypers Kamen, your host. Since 2010, we've been broadcasting sound ideas for better well-being. Each week, we spotlight diverse thinkers and doers who are contemporary trendsetters and change agents, devoting their lives to creating a better world. I invite you to listen and change how you think about human happiness. Our award-winning content is fresh, optimistic, and purpose-driven media that promotes well-being from the inside out. This episode is part of the Good Citizens Election Season Survival Guide to Restoring Common Sense and Sanity in a Crazy World, produced in collaboration with renowned, fair-minded subject matter experts who provide strategies that enhance critical thinking, increase civic engagement, and foster healthy pleasure to boost personal well-being and relationship satisfaction. You can also discover more unique bonus content at More Mental Fitness by Harvesting Happiness on Substack and Medium. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are. Thanks for joining me on today's show, where we are exploring the sorcery of scapegoating, the hocus pocus of human nature and xenophobia. My guest today is Phillips Stevens Jr., who is a cultural anthropologist whose research traces and analyzes the roots of religion and spiritualism in human culture. Phil earned his BA from Yale, served in the Peace Corps in Nigeria, and received his PhD from Northwestern. After a 48-year career in the anthropology department at the University of Buffalo, he retired in 2019. Dr. Stevens is a respected author and lecturer known for his work on magic and witchcraft. His latest book is titled Rethinking, the Anthropology of Magic and Witchcraft, Inherently Human. Welcome, Phil. Thanks for joining me on the show.
Thank you very much. I'm delighted to be with you.
All right, Phil. Give it to us straight. Why are we so attracted to superstition and magic and all of these supernatural things that help us make sense out of the world?
Right. That's one of the fundamental questions that motivated me to write this book that you mentioned. In my career as an anthropologist, I have learned that there are some fundamental beliefs and behaviors that seem to be absolutely universal, found in all cultures in the world and in all periods of recorded history. When we find that something is universal or seems to be, we are justified in searching below the level of culture for an explanation into our fundamental humanity. Perhaps this is something in our evolutionary biology that causes people to react in similar ways to similar situations everywhere in the world. And that's the way I start out my book, especially the chapters on magic and magical thinking. People everywhere believe that things in nature have an essence, a unique individuality, even a power, which is contagious. That power might be good and contact with it can benefit, or it might be dangerous and contact with it is avoided. This is one of 6 principles of magical thinking. You mentioned opening an umbrella in the house. The umbrella is designed to protect from storm. Storm is out in nature. Storm is potentially dangerous. Look at what Hurricane Helene has been doing in the Gulf Coast to northern Florida just now. Whereas the interior of one's house is tranquil, ordered, part of the definition of domestic, right? And one should not intrude upon the other. The open umbrella receives the essence of storm. You don't want that in your house. And that really is fundamental. And it's duplicated in the even older taboo of wearing a hat in the house. That's dying today. And my wife was remarking on how many men wear hats in church, which used to be a no-no. But in earlier times, long before there were umbrellas, perhaps, there was headgear, head protective, which is designed to protect one's head outside in intense sunlight or in storm. And one leaves one's hat in the vestibule or on a hook or something before one enters the house.
So these things made sense in their origins. I mean, although the umbrella, I think it's also about a metaphor, right? About bringing the stormy energy into the house. Again, it's a metaphor, right? It's not real.
Oh, no, ma'am. It is real. We could stop and say, of course not. Of course it's not real. This is symbolic. But in traditional human thinking, this is real. You avoid stepping on a crack. Why? A crack is damage. You see, the crack itself represents damage. It is damage that might infect you by stepping on the crack. It is not storm specifically that's going to invade your house if you open the umbrella in it, but some kind of disorder, some contrary forces are going to be potentially operating in your house. It could be sickness. It could be an accident of some sort. You see?
Is this belief? It's the belief, the collective belief that this will happen.
Right.
It's not the truth of the matter, although I guess truth is the agreement that people make about something, right? So that when somebody opens the umbrella in the house, the belief is that it will bring something bad to the household.
Correct.
The belief that it will is
Right.
true. The person's belief, the actuality of it being a harbinger of bad things is not. It's the sort of the biology of belief. Is that what you're saying?
Okay, sure. But as an anthropologist, I'm trying to convey the world as traditional people see it. And we're not going to distinguish between belief and the laws of physics, for example. The belief is sufficient. That's what we've got.
So that's what you're focusing on, is the architecture of the belief. Whether it's true or not does not matter. It's what people are attracted to for giving them a roadmap or an outline for the way of the world.
Sure.
Is that what you're saying? I mean, I think that's what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah, that's definitely part of it. Let's look at some of the other principles of magical thinking, because rarely is there just one operating. The most fundamental principles are principles of similarity and contact, things that are similar to other things. And the similarity can be in form or sound or color or shape or behavior, similar in any way, are believed to have causal connections with each other. Things that have been in contact with each other, either in direct physical contact or in close proximity, even in time, things that may have happened at the same time as something else, are believed to have a much stronger contact with each other. These two patterns of thinking are absolutely universal. Absolutely universal, no exceptions.
Let me give a couple examples that come to my mind, and you'll tell me if I'm on the right path here. We spill salt, and we're supposed to do something with that salt, because if we don't do something with that salt, we are going to bring or invite something bad to us. The other that comes to mind is the black cat crossing the path as being a harbinger of bad things to come.
Okay, now I can explain both of those superstitions. And the first one about spilling salt brings me to a caution when we're talking about magic. Magical beliefs, magical thinking in the anthropological sense, the worldwide sense, involves invisible mystical forces in nature. It does not involve spiritual action, actions by spirits. All cultures believe in spirits, various sorts of spirits. Spirits are beings, and they are universally conceptualized as being sentient and willful. The forces of nature are mechanical, they're dumb. They behave according to their own internal programs. The case of spilling salt and then throwing a pinch of it over your one or the other shoulder derives from early beliefs in the value of salt and the belief that spirits are very much like people. They have the same desires and wants as people. Salt was very precious in centuries ago, in the early trade of salt across the Sahara, in exchange for gold and other valuables. We wouldn't imagine that salt could be so valuable. And we presume that spirits share the same value about salt. So if you spill salt, presumably spirits might rush to pick it up, and you don't want spirits around. And so you throw a pinch over your shoulder to distract any potential spirits that might be lurking, hoping you're going to drop some salt while you clean up your mess. So this is indeed a superstition, but it's not a magical one. It's one involving spirit beliefs. And when Christianity introduced the concept of the devil or Satan, then that belief kind of morphed into the personage of Satan, who is believed to be semi-humanoid. And it's Satan who's lurking behind you when you toss a pinch of salt to him to distract him while you clean up your mess. It doesn't matter very much. The other one you mentioned, the black cat, that gets us into witches.
Yeah.
And that's a very different topic from magic. Witches are imaginary beings. They are human, but they have supernatural capacities. And one of their attributes is having a pet, often an animal, sometimes, as in England or in early America, the pet of the witch was a spirit. And the pet shares some of the witch's supernatural powers to do evil. Cats are a favorite familiar, is the word, familiar of the witch. Black is the color of night, a color of evil, and a black cat is a logical, familiar animal of a witch. If one is prowling around your house or runs across your path close to you, that may be a signal that it is scouting out its target, which might be you. And it may be an agent of a witch. So that's the origin of the black cat taboo.
Well, let me ask you, we're going to need to take a break, but before we do, I want to just ask you one thing about witches, and that is, in your work, do you separate what's considered a good witch and a bad witch, or are all of them undesirable or scary?
Yeah, that's an important question. I contend that the idea of the good witch is best exemplified by the novels of L. Frank Baum, the creator of the Wizard of Oz and all of the Oz stories. In West Africa, where my first research took place, there is a common belief that the witchcraft power was originally good, but it was corrupted. And so the idea of a good witch is in literature, but not in traditional culture. Witches could have been good in the earliest period of human history, but they chose not to be. they exhibited, in fact, a couple of fundamental human traits of greed, selfishness, and so on. Some beliefs about the origins of witches are like the Faustian story of a fellow or a woman. By the way, witches can be either male or female, who sold his soul to the agent of evil, the devil in Christian context, or the god of death in other contexts, in return for earthly pleasures and possibly long life and a number of other hedonistic attributes.
Let's take a pause, and when we come back, we are going to continue the conversation with my guest today, Dr. Phillips Stevens Jr., who is the author of Rethinking the Anthropology of Magic and Witchcraft, Inherently Human. And that is what we're talking about. Let's take a break. Harvesting Happiness is rooted in science. Our work facilitates applied positive psychology practices through media and consulting. We're committed to sound ideas for better well-being, leading to increased life satisfaction and a better world for everyone. We're not into pseudoscience or quick fixes. We're focused on common sense backed by rigorous research. Healthy critical thinking is the foundation for our discussions. We encourage you to challenge preconceptions and explore ideas with a curiously discerning mind. Collaboration with our guests is united by an inclusive vision to boost resilience, critical thinking, communication, and problem solving through civilized discourse and pleasurable relational engagement for everyone. Each day, we have the intellectual freedom to be happy or the liberty to be miserable, regardless of external circumstances. If you or someone you know is struggling with mental health, please seek support because good psychological health is vital to the achievement of a healthy and satisfying life. Visit harvestinghappiness.com for psychosocial and educational services that boost emotional and social intelligence. And we're back. Let's rejoin my conversation with Dr. Phillips Stevens. We're talking about the sorcery of scapegoating, the hocus pocus of human nature and xenophobia. So, Phil, let's go back to magic for a moment, because I think we have several definitions of what magic is, right? There's magic as in tricks and games, the sleight of hand. There's magic as in magical thinking. And your work runs the gamut in terms of research.
In my book, I spent several pages reviewing popular meanings of the word. This really is one of the most loaded, semantically loaded words in the English language. Everyone knows magic as entertainment, which is the birthday party magician who is a skilled illusionist, right? And we all know that he's tricking us, and we marvel at the skill of his tricks. But that leads us into another popular meaning of magic, the ability to change things, the ability to create something from nothing, or to make something into nothing, to make something disappear. Historians and as well psychologists use the word magic to mean anything outside of accepted religion, equating it with superstition, equating it with other beliefs, And so it has a wide range of meaning.
Hang on one second, because I think you touch upon something really important in terms of a relationship between magic or magical thinking and religion. Because religion, there are multiple facets of religion, right? There's the spiritual connection to numinescence, the great mysteries of the unknown. There is a political system that originally was part of many religions, that they taught us a code of conduct and how we operated within society. So even within the religious context, there's a bit of magic, isn't there?
Yes, absolutely. When I said to contrasting magic with religion, I was referring to this supernatural aspect of religion, people's beliefs in a personal relationship with elevated divinities of some sort, many or just one. But the anthropological meaning of magic looks at a absolutely universal belief in mystical forces, mystical powers, mystical energies that are in nature, that indeed construct a cosmic network in which everything that happens in the world is somehow recorded. Everything that is going to happen hasn't happened yet, or something that is happening somewhere else far away from us is recorded in the cosmic network of interconnections.
Like Nostradamus or the Mayan calendar or
Yes,
things like this. I love
sure,
giving examples for people to get what we're saying here.
sure. And that these forces in nature can be controlled by people. They can be manipulated and directed and counteracted by human effort only. And the principles that I've already discussed of similarity and contact, not only universal, but they are intertwined with religious ritual as well. You suggested that magic and religion are intertwined. Not those were not your words, but that's your meaning. And indeed, they are. Look at the elaborate Catholic rituals of the saints, for example, and the belief in power in religious things. Holy water has power. If you can understand the difference between holy water and drink potable non-holy water, then you can understand the dimension of magic that I'm talking about, this idea of mystical forces in nature. The relics of saints have power, separate power. The vestments that a priest wears has power in it. The ritual itself is designed to transport people from their present reality into another. We reenact the great myths of our faith, whether we are Jewish, Muslim, or Christian, any of the big three. Many of our rituals are designed to reenact early miraculous events and thereby transporting us into, making us immediate with those events. Those are magical forms of magical thinking, you see.
And in that space, we leave the regular world, right? We leave our daily lives and we're transported or elevated to some, not just magical, but majestic, elevated state.
The sacred state.
Yes, the sacred state, the divine state.
And that's another example, the difference between the profane and the sacred. And the difference is mystical. You can't feel it or see it, but we conceptualize it.
For me, the things that I think about is the beauty in that. That does have this sort of precious state to it. And then the flip side I also think about is how it leaves us very vulnerable to be preyed upon by others who manipulate this state for bad acts, for the groupthink that separates and otherizes people.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. And this could get us into the realm of pseudoscience and scam and so on. Many of the social ills that we're plagued with today.
Yeah, I would love to go down that rabbit hole because that is, to me, is useful in explaining how vulnerable we are because we so want to believe, we want to understand. On the one hand, on the other side of this, we become vulnerable to be preyed upon. And this is where the critical thinking element, along with a healthy dose of magical thinking, can be useful. Because I think magical thinking also helps keep us optimistic. Like, I don't think that it's necessarily all bad or wrong.
As in all scientific endeavors, a very popular explanation for something is functionalist.
Yes.
Explaining something in terms of the function that it serves. Now, a problem with a functionalist explanation is that functions change, and the function that something is seen to serve may not be the reason that it exists. And so it is with magic. Magical thinking enables us to feel a sense of control in an unpredictable world, and that's extremely valuable to us and in our evolution. I said earlier that magic involves the human effort to manipulate forces of nature without spiritual assistance. And fundamental to this effort is the symbol. We have to understand the use of symbols, both in religion and in magic. A symbol is something that represents something else, but it's more than that. The symbol not only represents, but it takes the place of the thing it represents. It stands in for, and in all practical purposes, it becomes the thing it represents. And if the thing it represents has power, then the symbol itself has power. And this is an example of how religion can be used magically. The Christian cross is taken by individuals and hung around their neck as protection. It is used in exorcism to drive out evil influences and evil beings. The symbol, and this is something that has long been considered unique to human thinking, the ability to symbol, although in fact we're discovering that it exists in some other animals as well. We could
really? Wow. Well, we're going to save that for the bonus
go
episode.
Into that in another. Yeah. So magic involves the human effort to make things happen in the world by the manipulation of symbols, which is believed to influence the forces of nature, to project them or to deflect them, also to understand what's happening in the world. Divination can be a magical process. Diviners, by using dice or drawing straws or any other mechanical method of divination, believe that they are tapping into that cosmic network in which a remnant of everything exists. These are further examples of magical thinking.
Let's pause there, and we are going to invite our listeners to head on over to the bonus episode to hear more of my conversation with Professor Phillips Stevens Jr. We're talking about his book, Rethinking the Anthropology of Magic and Witchcraft, Inherently Human. Thanks for joining us today on Harvesting Happiness. This is Lisa Cypers Kamen on behalf of my guest, Dr. Phillips Stevens Jr., wishing you kind thoughts, kinder words, and the kindest of actions. Until next time, remember, happiness is an inside job. Happiness is your inside job. Please go out and rock your day, and remember to be kind to one another. Want to explore more sound ideas for better well-being? You can listen to part 2 of this conversation and the Good Citizens Election Season Survival Guide to Restoring Common Sense and Sanity in a Crazy World at More Mental Fitness by Harvesting Happiness on Substack and Medium. Subscribe, listen, and share hundreds of downloadable episodes wherever you get your podcasts. Connect with and follow us on most social media channels. To learn more about lifestyle management and mental fitness consulting services, please visit harvestinghappiness.com. Harvesting Happiness and More Mental Fitness are produced by Lisa Cypers Kamen, Andrea Mengele, Robin Boyd, Andrea Daly, and the excellent team at Podfly Productions, including Eric Begay, Kimberly Beck, and Alec Guest, in collaboration with TogiNet Radio, KBUU, RadioMalibu.net, and is available on PRX, the Public Radio Exchange.